you all doing? What a beautiful, beautiful day that this is. I'm so glad that you're on Woman Without Limits. My name is Reverend Kathy Kiuna, and it's always such a delight to have you right here. Let me tell you, we have some goodies for you, and you know that we bring it on. You know we have amazing stories on Women Without Limits. And as if that's not enough on this channel, you can get a lot of stuff. You can get nice music. You can get the word. You can get the wisdom nuggets. I mean, it's full. So you come here, you get all energized by the things of the Spirit. And so I'm so delighted that you're here today. And I have an amazing guest, as usual. Hi. Today, you all just buckle your safety belts. Get ready. This is Woman Without Limits with an amazing psalmist all the way from United States of America. I knew him a while back, and I tell you, you're going to love him. If you don't know him yet, you're just about to get to know him. His name is Michael Stuckey. He does an amazing work when it comes to worship. He's not just a singer. He's a worshiper. Man, he leads worship, and all you do is lay prostrate before God because you sense the presence of God. He changes the atmosphere. And so I know that you're in for a good one. Michael Stuckey.
I am glad to be here. I made it on the big TV screen, Women Without Limits.
You did.
Hey, I made it, y'all. I made it.
You made it. You know, I'm so delighted that you're here today.
I'm glad.
And so people know this big, amazing person that sings like an angel. You make the birds stop to listen.
Hey.
But who is Michael?
Wow. Michael Stuckey is first of all, he's a worshiper. He's a son. He's a father. He's a true brother. He is a comedian. He is a realist, but most of all, he is a person that loves and fears God.
And you want to tell us about your background, like where you're coming from,
Hey.
you know, where were you born? Who bore you?
Hey, some people think I'm Nigerian. They call me Chukwuemeka.
Oh, wow.
Or Ghanaian, they call me Yao. But here in Kenya, they feel like I'm from Kenya too.
I know. You look like a Mau.
Yeah, I do. I look like a Mau. I don't know what name they're going to give me, but
right.
Here in Kenya, I feel like I'm from Africa, but I'm really from a city called Cincinnati, Ohio.
Uh-huh.
I'm born and raised. I go back. My story is interesting. It reminds me of Moses and his mother when Pharaoh sent out the decree that she put him in the Nile. I was born to a young juvenile mother. She was 15 when she had me. 15, and she had me in a juvenile detention center, which is a juvenile jail.
So hold on a minute, Michael. At 15?
At 15.
Okay, what was she doing in jail at 15?
My mom was bad as heck. She was just disordered. You know, I believe that she has purpose on her life, but the enemy was trying to get her. And how to get her was to get her son, the firstborn. And because I was born in jail, God knew that there was promise on my life. I need to go to Pharaoh. So, and the decree. So she put me up for adoption at 15 years old. What can a 15-year-old really do?
Yeah, what can she do? And she was alone in jail.
She was alone in jail. And she had me in jail. And I was adopted 3 months later through the Stuckeys. My real last name is not Stuckey.
What's your real last name?
Mason, Michael Mason. It sounds scary. No.
Now, do you know Mason?
I do it.
You do?
Yeah.
After how long did you meet Mason?
So I met my mother. She went back to jail. That's the story. She went back to jail. Listen, when the enemy is trying to sift you as wheat, you say he's going to try to get everything. But I met my mother back in jail when I was 19, so 19 years later. But I have an interesting story. I met her through the death of my biological, her mother, her father.
Yeah.
Who actually at the age of 10, 11, 12, taught me how to play the guitar. And they did not know I was their grandson, and I did not know they were my grandparents.
They taught you how to play, but they didn't know that you
did
related?
Not know. My adopted mother hired him, his name was John Nolan, to teach me. He was a quartet singer.
Did your adopted mother know?
She didn't know either. We didn't know until 1997. 17 years later, in 1997, I was 17, when they actually passed away by the cause of a fire.
Yeah.
My grandparents, they died in the fire.
In the house?
In the house. They died in the house. And my sisters, my biological sisters that were younger than me, there's 3 of them, they actually were raised with my grandparents. I was
So
the only
were
one.
they also born in jail?
They weren't. No, they were born. When my mother got out when she had me, she went through a period of time where she just lived on the streets and really just surviving for herself. And then she had 3 other daughters, which is my younger sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I knew I had 3 sisters, but I never knew their name. And growing up in an adopted family, I knew my parents loved me. They didn't treat us any differently. We had more kids coming in and out the house, but she adopted 6 out of the 10 of my siblings that I have.
So wait a minute. She had her own 4.
She had her own 4.
And then adopted 6
She
of
adopted
you
6 more.
from different families.
From different families.
And you all were like
we were always raised
connected.
together. But the older 4
Wow.
were older than us. Like my
Right.
older sibling, I'm 42, about to be, and she's 67.
Right.
My oldest sister is 67. I have nieces and nephews, Reverend Kathy, that is older than me. They be calling me uncle. I'd be like, don't you call me uncle. Be like, uncle. Uncle, no, you 50
You're
something years old
older.
to my uncle. Call me Michael.
You make me look old.
Right.
Wow. So how did that make you feel? Like to know that you were born in jail and then adopted in 3 months
Yeah.
while you were only 3 months old.
Mhm.
How did that make you feel?
You know what? I believe because I grew up in a spiritual house, it covers me because I couldn't tell any difference. It's almost like having a spiritual father. Sometimes people they have spiritual father because they want to replace their natural father was not in their life. So they look for the spiritual father to play both roles, their
Right.
father and also their natural father, or the spiritual mother play both roles, the spiritual mother and also the natural mother.
Right.
Because I had a adopted parent that loved me as if I was their own son. It wasn't no difference. I felt no difference.
Wow.
If I was disciplined equally. If I was rewarded, I was rewarded equally.
So you didn't feel like a castaway?
I didn't feel like a castaway. And I
Right.
never really was upset or even bothered that I was adopted.
Really?
Never.
Did you ever want to meet your mom?
I always wanted to, but I never knew. It was an interesting story because in the United States or even here in Africa, if the male name is John, his son is named John.
Right.
His grandson is named John,
Yeah.
John III. It's the opposite in my family. My grandmother was named Frida. My mother is named Frida. And my sister is named Frida. So it was
Wow.
interesting, but I knew my sister's name was Frida, but I never knew my mother's name was Frida until I
Right.
went to go meet her. Her name was Frida.
Uh-huh.
And I met her instantly, and I went to the jailhouse to meet her at 19. She was serving a 12-year sentence.
So wait a minute. So she was still in jail when you met her?
I met her in jail.
So she did stay in jail for many, many years?
Yes, she got into, my mother had anger management issues, and literally she was a fighter. So one of the fights she was involved with 2 Caucasian ladies went too far. One of the lady passed away. And they felt that my mother could have stopped when she had her pinned down.
On the ground.
Yeah, so my mom served the 12
So it's like
years
she
sentence.
beat her to death.
She beat her to death. Yeah, and the lady passed away. And she served a 12-year sentence on top of having me as a child. So her life was mostly
In jail.
in jail. So when
Right.
her parents died, she was in jail.
Hmm.
And it was a generational curse.
Oh.
My mother is the oldest out of 6 of them.
Right.
And out of 6 of them, there's only 2 left.
They're all dead?
They all dead. 4 of my uncles
And
have
were they
passed away.
also behaving like your mom?
Passed away from drugs, gun violence, overdose. And I really felt that the
Wow.
generation, even when I came to realize that was a part of my bloodline, I thought the generation curse was upon my life. It wasn't until 2017. I woke up and I had just buried my last uncle. We are close in age, so we like brothers.
Right.
Uncle Corky. And I wrote a song called Ike Chinike. It's a Nigerian Igbo song. And it
Yeah.
simply said, the promises of God
Right.
is on you. I decree and declare every word that you've spoken to me, that I
Right.
shall live and not die.
Yeah,
I
come
should be
on.
above and not beneath. And I broke that generational curse. I said, I will have long life. All my uncles have died before they reached the age of 47 years old. I have 1 left.
So tell me, Michael, let's backtrack a little
Yeah.
because we're going to come into, your writing of songs and all that.
Mhm.
But so you're meeting her now at the age of 19.
19.
And you're sober, you're fine. You didn't go through teenage issues?
No, I never. I was grew up in a Christian home, but I'll try to be sneaky. But my mother, she was old school, so she was a wise woman. And when you know you're a mother, even if I'm not your biological bloodline, your heart would beat.
Right.
You would have the spirit of intercession. You know something ain't right. I remember sneaking out the house.
Right.
Stuffing my bed with like pillows, acting like I was in there laying down like this. Just to go to a teenage nightclub. And my mom would not allow me to go. So one night, I snuck out the window. I was like 15 years old. And I wanted to go to this teenage nightclub. So I stuffed my pillow with, and I came back in my bed with my pillows and made it look like I was in there. So I came back, and there's a wooden stick in the window. And I said, oh my gosh, how am I gonna get in? So I had to ring the doorbell. My mom said, who is that in your bed down there? I said, no, I'm outside talking to my friend. I'm outside talking to my friend. She said, well, you stay out there all night talking to your friends. So my mom made me sleep in the van. She made me sleep outside. But it was a message from my younger siblings.
Wow. Yeah.
Do not do this. Honor in this house.
This is not the life.
This is not the life.
I'm raising you to live.
If you choose to do this way,
right,
you will be the same boat.
You pay the repercussions for it.
Yes. So from that day forth,
I
never snuck out again.
So that was it?
That was it.
That was it. Like that was your ultimate rebellion?
It was cold. Right? Because it was cold.
Wow.
It was cold.
So you learned your lesson.
I learned my lesson.
Okay. So did you feel rejected at any point because of your mom?
I never felt rejected. And I think that's God's design. That's why I look at Moses' situation.
Yeah.
He never felt like he was different. Even though Pharaoh had other kids, but he never felt like he was different.
Right.
He felt like he was a son of Pharaoh. Pharaoh treated him as a son. And I felt like no different. I didn't have any rejection.
Right.
When I came into God, and I know that all things work together for the good of them who are called according to his purpose, I understood why God chose me. When I understood my anointing, why God chose me not to be raised with my mother. Had I been raised with my biological mother, I'd have been just like my uncle.
Maybe a gangster.
A gangster.
A drug addict.
I'd have been dead.
In and out of jail. Yes.
I would have been in jail. Dead.
So you know what, Michael, that teaches us that all things work together for good.
Yes. Yeah.
And the steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. And sometimes you may think you're in a bad place, in a bad situation, but God is in control. And so even though sometimes you feel like you're thrown away, like you're rubbish, you're nothing, God is still holding you together. He's still in control.
He's in control.
And at the end of the day, you look back and say, okay, so this is that. The reason for that is this, So you look back and you enjoy the fact that now your mom definitely didn't have the capacity to raise the man that you are today.
Absolutely.
So you're adopted.
My adopted mother, she never hid it from us. And when we were old enough, I was able to handle the mature stories about me being born in jail. Matter of fact, it was interesting because I was 14 years old trying to work. So I went downtown Cincinnati, caught the bus downtown. And as I went downtown, I went to go get my birth certificate. Well, they said no record found. Well, as I was leaving, there was a social worker. Her name was Jerry Shepherd. She was always involved in our life. And Jerry Shepherd is the one who delivered me to the Stuckies at 3 months. She happened to see me. She said, what you doing downtown? I said, well, I came to get my birth certificate, but they couldn't find it. And that's all she said. She said, okay, be safe, get home. Before I got home, she called my adopted mother and said, Miss Stuckey, Michael downtown, he's looking for his birth certificate. So when I got into the house, my mom said, what are you doing? How you doing? I said, I'm good, Mom. And she said, what were you doing downtown? I said, I went to go get my birth certificate.
Yeah.
I said, but they couldn't find it, so I can't work at McDonald's. And she said, that's because you wasn't born here. I was 14 years old.
Is that when you knew?
That's when I found out.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that from birth up to 14, you never knew that you were adopted?
I knew I was adopted. I didn't know the story about my mother.
Okay. All right.
I didn't know my story about my mother.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the severeness of my adoption and how that my mother was a teenager with problems.
Right.
She was a thief. She was out there
living in the street. Thief.
She would live in the streets. She was fast. And she tell her story. And I can't wait till one day she does tell her testimony.
Yeah.
Because she looks at my life and she reverenced the grace that I walk in, which is something you don't find in families. Me and my mother, to this day, we have a close relationship.
Right.
I preach the word of God to her. And I live a life that she understands the grace that I live in. But I believe she will come.
Right.
Back to true holiness.
God will use you.
Amen.
The way he's been using you, just
Amen.
little, until the fullness of time.
Until the fullness.
So at 14 is when now you're told,
I was adopted.
the whole story about
In
your
jail.
mom. Okay. You meet her at 19. How does your life shape after that? Do you leave your foster home? Do you leave, at what age do you leave your
So my mother,
parents?
she was still in jail till I was 23. So 19 to 23, she still had to serve the rest of her sentence. In that time, I was able to still build relationship with her. My adopted mother, she was mama. I lived out of town, so when I would come, she needed her grass cut. I would drive into town.
And cut her grass.
2-hour drive to cut her grass.
Right.
She was getting older, so when she had younger siblings, so when she needed to discipline my younger brother, I would come home.
Yeah.
And discipline. My father had passed away in 96 at the time. So it was just her. So
he was 96.
No, 1996.
Or 1996.
Yeah.
Okay.
He died. He picked me up from work, and 6 hours later, he had a heart attack in his sleep. And I found him in his room. I found him dead in his room at 16 years old. The grace of God has been on my life. I look at God has a unique way of He designs us.
Right.
He has a unique way of what He puts inside of us. And I been there for my mother until she passed away in 2005. So she knew my biological mother when she got out of jail. So we were like one big family. At the same time, she literally didn't stop us from building that relationship. She wanted us to.
Oh, really?
All
with your
6
mom?
all the 6 of the kids that she adopted.
With their own parents, wherever they are, wherever they were.
Yes.
Right.
She wanted us to build a relationship.
What a mother.
Yes, she did.
That must have been from heaven, just ordained by God.
Yeah. So she died in 2005. And from there, me and my biological mother have built a
So your adopted father died
96.
in 96. And your mom?
2005.
2005.
Yeah.
So almost 10 years later.
10
9 years
later,
after that.
I had lost mine within 6 months, my biological father. I met him while my mother was in jail. She told me who he was.
Okay, wait, you're going too fast. We are in the biological. Now, let's first deal with the adopted parents. So they've died.
They passed
the
away.
2 of them. And then you get to meet your biological father after they're dead?
I met my biological father when I found my biological mother while she was in jail. She told me who he was. And I went to find him. And I found him within 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes. That's how easy it was for me to find him.
What?
God said, I'll be a road in the wilderness and a river in the desert for you.
Right.
I found my dad within 20 minutes.
And what happened? Oh my gosh, this is so interesting.
And I met him. I met my grandmother. She owned a laundromat.
Yeah.
A place where you wash clothes. And I went to the house where she lived upstairs. But they knew exactly who I was. They remembered my biological mother.
So immediately they saw you, they knew?
They knew exactly who I was. I looked just like my mom. We looked like twins. What? I mean, she couldn't deny me. I couldn't deny her if I wanted to.
Right.
But she is, but they knew exactly who I was. And from there, we built a relationship. And my dad, he passed away in August 2004. Then I lost a brother, my oldest brother, through my adopted mother.
Right.
And then 2 months later, my mom died from a broken heart.
Your
adopted mother.
Adopted mother.
Yes.
Oh, from a broken heart?
She was, how old was she? I think she was 72 at this time.
72?
Yeah.
Broken heart? Broken heart?
Yeah.
Broken heart?
Broken heart.
I thought she was so happy with all of you adopted children. And
it was her biological son, her firstborn, who died from diabetes. She watched him get his toes cut, to his foot cut, to his leg cut. And then now they want to cut his whole legs off. He said no. And she had to bury her son. No woman, no mother can deal with burying
no mother wants to bury her kid.
Her kid. And that's what it was. She died
of a broken heart.
2
months later.
2 months later.
After her son.
He died in November. She died in January.
Oh. Yeah. So now, after they're gone, you're what, 20?
I'm 25 at this time.
You're 25 at this time.
Yeah.
So what's happening in your life? They've brought you up in the ways of God.
They brought me in the ways of God.
They have taught you the scriptures.
Yes, yeah.
You are a praying person in that house.
In the house, yeah.
When did you start singing? And when did you even know you could sing?
Well, I did not know I could sing until 1987. I was 7 years old. It wasn't until we had these vents in the house. I was downstairs. My mother was out shopping. She was a church lady buying church hats and fur coats and like to sit there and everything. Like you sharp.
I hear now.
She'd be sharp. My mother, she was a sharp woman. And my dad heard me singing through the vent. And my first song was, Your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. I want to thank you and praise you too. Your grace and mercy brought me through. And my dad waited till my mom. He was not a man of many words. He was a deacon. He said, Juanita, that boy can sing. She said, which one? Because I used to go to church with my dad. He was a deacon. And I never really would talk. And I was asleep during a preacher message. Me and my dad would be like this.
Faster.
And when the choir is singing, we'd be
Michael,
like,
he was sleeping because of age. You?
So my mother knew
What's your excuse?
My mother knew I loved food, just like I love food here in Kenya.
Yeah.
I love food.
Right.
JCC has been feeding me like crazy. I love food.
Amazing.
And my mom said, I'm taking the choir out to eat, but I was not part of the choir, so that means I could not go.
Right.
So I manipulated my brother, said, let me go out to eat. Let me go out to eat. And my mom said, if you go out to eat, you must sing. And she made me sing from 1987 to now. I've been singing.
She made you sing.
Made me sing.
So you sang, oh my gosh. And your father is the one who heard it.
He heard it through the vent.
Okay. So from then on, did you continue singing? Did you start to develop your singing?
I started, believe it or not, I didn't really come into my development of my own ministry until 2009. When I grew up in high school, I used to wear church clothes to school. So they used to call me the prayer warrior.
Right.
Even though I was a part of the gospel choir, they always want me to pray. Like I was a pastor and all that. But they didn't know that I could really sing, like sing, sing, sing.
Right.
And I had like a church song here and there, but it wasn't until 2009 I walked into my fruition of I have a gift. And I would never forget, my mother knew that I could sing really good. But when I knew who I was and the DNA that I had was in 2009.
Wow. Yeah. 2009. Okay. So Michael, you got a child yourself when you were young.
Yes. So my son is 21 years old. Then 20 years older than my son. My son is 21.
Your son is 21.
Yeah, his name
so
is
you
William
got
Michael.
him when you were 20.
20.
Wow. Okay, tell us about that.
William Michael is amazing. He's a young kid. I call him the geek. He is the one that keeps me solid, grounded.
So how did you get him? First, let's go back to it.
Okay, I used to be fast. I used to be a fast, singing in church.
Yeah.
So you get all these women.
Yeah.
And I used to like women who worship.
Okay.
So I will never forget, there was a girl, and at this time I was Baptist, so we didn't really have holiness. We just knew God, you know, like Catholic. But I was doing things in the world. And I would never forget Siobhan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
One of my first baby mama, I would never forget, we were just friends.
Yeah.
I was never a relationship type of guy.
Okay.
I was never a relationship type.
Why? Just?
I was just.
It wasn't a part of what you're.
It wasn't a part of my DNA.
Really?
I would never be attached to folks. So I can go along with the process, but I would never be attached. It would be a little disattachment. So my first baby mama, and I was friends. I knew she wasn't in love with me. She was not in love with me.
It was just a.
She called me another man's name.
Yeah.
I said, what you call me? Oh, you talking about my pride was this.
The little ego, she busted it completely.
I said, I know my mom named me Michael, but she called me Corey. I said, Corey. But it happened it happened 2 times to another girl. I guess I'm just a substitution or something. But
so you are like Corey?
Yeah, so I have a wonderful son, William, and I didn't really bring William into my life until he was 13. So as William, I was just doing my own thing, paying my debt and paying my dues and all that, child support.
Yeah.
But William was acting up at 11, 12. And then he came into my life. He came to live with me full time at 12.
At 12?
At 12 years old. Yeah. And then,
so like you and the mother didn't really go far. It was just okay.
No relationship.
Yeah. Right.
No relationship.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very careful now, Mom, that who be DM me on my DMs.
Yeah.
Because I listen. It ain't going Nobody. I say the same thing to everybody now.
Yeah.
God be praised.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna trap me. Listen, I come too far. I'm almost a half a century old, and I ain't about to lose everything I worked
You're
for.
42. Don't make it look like
Well,
you're so
But I'm
old.
just saying, when you look at it, I ain't about to lose everything I've worked so hard for. Just for a moment. I listen.
Oh, really?
Uh-uh.
I want us to talk about that, Michael, because I see you're very, very strict in that area.
I'm very strict.
Is it because of that?
I am.
Is it because of getting a baby
Getting a baby
when
out of
you were
wedlock.
so young?
Yeah, out of wedlock. And then also, I have now gotten to the place of respect and honor. When people look at me, they look at me as notable.
Mm.
And all a man has is his integrity and his character.
Oh my God, that will preach.
That's all a man has is his integrity and his character. What would they say about you? How do people look at you? I was dating a woman, and it was recently.
Yeah.
I was engaged.
Yeah.
No longer engaged.
Yeah.
But,
Single.
Amen. I'm
You
single.
better get a Kenyan woman.
I'm back on the market.
I'm telling you, you better be. Are you looking when you pray? When you're praising, and are you looking?
Well, I maybe in the spirit.
Yeah.
You can start a show called The Bachelor. The Bachelor.
You know, I have what you call the daughters of Zion.
Create a show, a panel called
well
The Bachelor.
taught, well groomed, well. So what should I do?
I would be the Bachelor.
And they pass by.
They pass by. I take them on dates. I go get some food all around Kenya. Nice dates. I eat in the garden.
Yeah.
I see who's my perfect
The
match.
ugali. And then you see, okay, let me see.
We gotta get the ratings,
pass.
though. We need 2 seasons. You can't do it the first season. You gotta do 2 seasons.
2 seasons.
You gotta do that.
Of looking for Michael's wife.
Bring them like, listen, David had 300, Saul had 300. I always tell people, God promised us 16 wives. He said, I'm gonna give you 16 wives. They said, what do you mean? I said, he said, for better, for worse, for rich, and for poor. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, that's 16. No, but,
Oh my God.
I can't wait till the right one comes. But
Right.